The lingering essence of her, a faint citrus from her shampoo, still clung to the pillows, a cruel taunt in the hushed air. It had only been hours since Celeste had vanished, but the silence she left behind shrieked. Her toothbrush stood sentinel in its holder, a stark contrast to the hollow space where her wedding band should have rested. I noticed that, every stark detail. She hadn't offered a goodbye meant for a return. Instead, she'd merely stated, "I just need the weekend." Her hands steady as she zipped her overnight bag, tossed in a forgotten paperback, the silk scarf from our engagement night, and a silver pendant she wore only when she craved power, not beauty. No embrace, no eye contact, just a sigh, then the definitive click of the door, a final period on a sentence long overdue. I stood rooted, my coffee mug a cold anchor in my trembling hand, pleading for guidance it couldn't offer. That was Friday morning. By Friday night, the pacing started. By Saturday afternoon, a full-blown descent. Ready to learn the shocking truth that shattered everything? That's when my phone buzzed, a notification from our shared grocery account. Not a secluded yoga retreat, not a quiet coastal Airbnb. Our rewards card had been swiped at a gas station 3 counties north, miles from the artsy village of Dunhollow she'd sworn was her destination. Then the email, not sent to me, of course. It auto-synced to our joint inbox, a detail I suspect she'd entirely overlooked. A hotel reservation confirmation, 2 guests, a king suite, candlelight dinner add-on, and no fake names. Celeste Caligo and someone named Tyrion Thorne. My heart didn't just sink, it imploded, a direct hit to the chest. I stared at that reservation until the words swam, the world dissolving around me. My palms grew slick, mouth bone dry, and my very soul, that was the first time I felt it truly fracture. She'd left to find herself, and instead, I found everything I never wanted to know. Sleep was a stranger that night. I lay in what was once our bed, now just mine, the city lights blinking through the blinds like frantic warning signals. The sheets, the air, my own body, everything felt weighted down by a truth I hadn't yet dared to whisper aloud. Sunday morning dawned without a single message from her. No, miss you, no, made it safely, nothing. And I couldn't bring myself to reach out either. I was too engrossed, replaying every recent moment, every flimsy excuse, every late return, every strained laugh, every kiss that missed its mark. I'd told myself I was overthinking, dismissing the instincts that had been screaming inside me like a fool. So I did something I'm not proud of. I powered on her old laptop, the one gathering dust since her office upgraded her. She'd likely forgotten its existence. I logged in, the browser a gateway to forbidden knowledge. My hands trembled as if disarming a bomb, and in a way I was. It took less than 5 minutes. Her private photo folder, disguised within a directory of invoices and tax documents, lay exposed. Dozens of images, captured over months, hotel mirror selfies, bathroom reflections, her face flushed and alive in a way I hadn't seen in years. And never, not once had it been for me. But it wasn't just photos, videos, messages, long, intimate exchanges with Tyrion Thorne. She'd confided things to him she never shared with me, not just physical intimacies, but profound emotional truths. "I feel vivid with you," one read. Another, "I wish I met you first." She even called him her escape. Escape from what? From me. What would you do if you found your entire life was built on a foundation of lies? A wave of nausea washed over me. I locked myself in the bathroom, slumping onto the cold tile floor, the very floor I'd meticulously scrubbed before her last birthday, ensuring her bubble bath sanctuary was perfect. I remembered lighting candles, curating her favorite playlists. I'd poured my everything into making her feel loved, seen, secure, all while she meticulously drafted her escape plans. One message sent just 3 days before she left struck with the force of a physical blow. I told him I needed to find myself. He bought it. God, he's so soft. Soft. I knew I wasn't the archetypal alpha male. I wasn't loud, didn't haunt the gym or bark orders. But I loved her with every quiet, awkward fiber of my being. And that, it seemed, wasn't enough. My gentleness she'd twisted into weakness and mocked it. By Sunday morning, I was running on a volatile cocktail of caffeine, adrenaline, and a heartbreak that simmered, refusing to explode. I hadn't eaten, hadn't showered. I just sat in the kitchen, staring at the last mug she'd touched, a faint lipstick ring clinging to the rim like a ghost of an affection that was never truly real. How many people miss this simple truth about betrayal? I kept wondering how long she'd planned this. How many goodbye kisses were rehearsals for her real smiles, saved for someone else? I wanted to scream, to shatter something. Instead, true to my nature, I folded in on myself, silent, wounded, paralyzed by the enormity of it all. But then, something inside me shifted. Not anger, not yet, just crystalline clarity. I couldn't remain entangled in this mess she'd created and call it love. I had to see the complete picture, even if it meant tearing myself apart in the process. I delved deeper, her synced notes, her ride-share history, her cloud documents. The more I uncovered, the more I realized the terrifying precision of her deception. This wasn't improvisation. She'd meticulously engineered an entire alternative life. Weekend getaways were cloaked in coded calendar entries. Yoga retreat meant a cabin with Tyrion. Girls' night was code for dinners at upscale rooftop lounges, paid for with the very credit card I'd helped her rebuild after her reckless 20s. In just 72 hours, my world flipped entirely. Could yours too? Then came the physical receipts. She kept the one from their first accidental meeting. It was tucked into a folder titled Moments That Changed Me. He was the barista. She'd left her number on a napkin. I was at home that night, eagerly awaiting a documentary she'd sworn she was excited about. I remembered her text about being caught up with coworkers, but she'd arrived home beaming, like someone whose secret wish had just been granted. I should have known, but I was too busy making popcorn. The worst part wasn't merely the infidelity, it was the audacious rewriting of our shared history. I found journal entries on her cloud drive where I wasn't even a person. I was a background character, a mere placeholder. She described me as comfortable but uninspiring, as if I were an old convenient chair. One entry cut deep. Sometimes I look at Ezra and feel nothing. He's kind, but Tyrion makes me feel vivid. Vivid, as if I were grayscale, a half-finished sketch, and this other man, the vibrant, full-color masterpiece. That's when the tears stopped. My sadness began to calcify into something else. Not revenge, not yet, but something colder, sharper. I wouldn't confront her while she was still immersed in her little fantasy weekend. No, I would allow her to stroll back into this house, believing nothing had changed, and then I would show her just how vividly I saw her now. Here's what no one tells you about betrayal. Sometimes the quiet storm is the most devastating. Sunday evening descended eerily quiet, a loaded silence, as if the entire world held its breath. I sat at the dining table, the overhead light off, only a floor lamp casting dim shadows. I wasn't scrolling, not watching, just waiting for the click of her key, waiting for the expression on her face when she stepped into a version of our home that now belonged only to me. I hadn't touched her belongings. Not yet, but I had carefully boxed my emotions, shelving them away. The Ezra Vance who had waited for her was gone. Around 6:40 p.m., I saw the rideshare pull up through the blind slats. I didn't move. I listened to the door unlatch, her heels softly tap the hallway tile, and that familiar exhale she always gave upon returning home. As if the world was exhausting, and I was her personal cushion. Not anymore. She walked into the kitchen and froze, seeing me there. Still in yesterday's clothes, still hollow-eyed, yet somehow more alive than I'd felt in years. "Ezra," she said, blinking as if I were a mirage. "You startled me." I offered no reply. I simply held her gaze, long enough to make her fidget, adjust her purse strap, shift her weight like a nervous schoolgirl caught in a lie. She tried to pierce the silence with a forced smile. I know it was a bit spontaneous, but I really needed it. Just refreshing, you know. Was Tyrion refreshing too? I asked, my voice flat, devoid of emotion. Her entire body flinched as if I'd physically struck her. She blinked, then laughed, a brittle, too quick sound. What? Who? You know who. I saw the hotel booking, the photos, the messages, all of it. For a few seconds, she remained speechless. Her mouth opened, poised for denial, then closed again. And for once, she didn't attempt to lie. You went through my things. You cheated on your husband, I countered, standing slowly, heavily, as if peeling myself off the past. Don't talk to me about boundaries. Celeste didn't cry. She didn't apologize. Instead, she folded her arms, glaring at me as if I'd just insulted her deepest pride. You're being dramatic. I let out a dry, mirthless laugh. No, what's dramatic is sneaking off to a hotel with a man you barely know while your husband is making soup and checking to see if you're warm enough. That's dramatic. She looked away, and for the first time, I saw a crack in her too. Not guilt, but something uglier. Annoyance. You were always so nice, she muttered. Too nice. I needed something else. Why is kindness sometimes mistaken for weakness? And what? You didn't think I'd ever notice? Or were you hoping I'd remain nice enough to forgive this, like everything else? Celeste looked up, and I will never forget what she said next. Honestly, I didn't think you'd do anything at all. Just like that, she spoke the quiet part aloud. She interpreted my gentleness as surrender, my patience as powerlessness, my kindness as an open invitation to walk all over me. But she didn't grasp that softness doesn't equate to spinelessness, that I was done being her safety net. She fell silent after that final jab, that confession that she'd expected nothing from me. I think she anticipated a breakdown, tears, pleas for her to stay. But I didn't. I simply stood there, gazing at a woman I no longer recognized. It wasn't even hatred I felt. It was more a numb realization, like watching a house you built by hand burn down, too exhausted to even care. She began unpacking slowly, as if nothing had transpired. She removed her earrings, opened the fridge, asked if I'd eaten. As if we were roommates after a minor squabble, not a married couple with 15 years of trust disintegrating between us. And then she said it. I don't think we should talk about this tonight. I'm exhausted, and I just need space. Space, as if she hadn't just had 2 nights of it, wrapped in hotel sheets, sipping wine with another man, playing make-believe as if our life didn't exist. I didn't argue. Instead, I nodded once, left the kitchen, and walked directly to the spare room, the one we used to call the junk room. While she was gone, I had quietly transformed it into my sanctuary. Clean sheets, a lamp, my toothbrush. I'd even hung one of my old hoodies in the closet. It was strange how quickly I adapted, as if a part of me had known this moment was coming long before the lies surfaced. The next morning, she acted as if nothing had happened. She offered a soft, forced good morning and brewed coffee, as if she hadn't detonated our marriage just 48 hours prior. I watched her pour almond milk into her mug, stirring slowly, as if measuring how far she could push this silent game. You're not even going to ask me why, she said after a few minutes, not looking at me. I leaned against the counter. I already know why. You needed excitement, passion, some fantasy. You got bored. You wanted someone who made you feel dangerous again. I get it, she scoffed. It's not that simple. No, Celeste, it's actually exactly that simple. She walked away, but not before muttering, You think you know everything, but you never really saw me. That's what finally broke something in me. Not the betrayal, but the sheer arrogance. The way she twisted her lies into my failing, as if Irineo was the reason she needed to sleep with someone else. As if my emotional availability, my reliability, my boring loyalty had somehow made her the victim in her own narrative. I sat with that thought all day while she went to her office job, posting filtered photos from her weekend getaway with captions like, recharging is essential. I had never seen anyone use recharging to describe betrayal. But while she was at work, pretending everything was fine, I was busy too. I wasn't shouting or breaking things. I wasn't even crying. I was planning. Because for once, I wasn't going to wait for her to decide my future. I was going to reclaim it. I called a lawyer. I gathered bank statements. I closed our joint credit card. I opened a new personal checking account and rerouted my paycheck. By the time she came home, half of my essentials were already moved into the spare room. She saw the boxes and laughed nervously. "What's this supposed to be?" I met her eyes, calm, cold, certain. "My exit." She blinked at me, confused at first, as if I were bluffing, as if the man she'd once accused of being too soft to ever leave was now merely putting on a show. She let out a short, dismissive laugh, leaning on the doorway, arms crossed, like she was watching a toddler threaten to run away with a backpack full of crackers. "Your exit," she repeated with a grin. "You're seriously doing this?" "No," I said calmly, taping up another box. "I already did it. You just didn't notice." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't shout. And maybe that's what made it worse for her, because she realized I wasn't bluffing. I was done playing the character she had written for me, the passive, naive husband who'd take the scraps of her attention and call it love. "Stop." Read this before you ever let someone else define your worth. She stepped into the room, her tone abruptly shifting from smug to anxious. "You're really going to throw away 15 years over one mistake?" That word hit me like a slap. Mistake. Forgetting an anniversary is a mistake. Burning dinner is a mistake. But planning a weekend with another man, lying to my face, inviting him into the life we'd built, that wasn't a mistake. That was a decision. Repeated, deliberate, cruel. "You didn't trip and fall into a hotel bed, Celeste," I replied, standing now. "You chose this over and over, and now I'm choosing something too." "You're overreacting," she snapped, her voice rising. "You're being vindictive because you finally found some spine." I laughed under my breath. "No, I found some peace, and you're upset because it doesn't include you." She stared at me, and for the first time, I saw panic. Not sadness, not regret, but panic. Not because she lost me, but because she lost control of the version of me that allowed her to feel superior. I think deep down she believed I'd always be there, waiting on the porch like a loyal dog, no matter how many times she strayed. "You're not thinking clearly," she tried again, her voice almost trembling now. "You need time to process this. We need to talk to someone. Fix this." "There's nothing to fix," I said as I sealed the last box. "You already replaced me. I'm just finally catching up." She didn't reply. She just stood there chewing her lip, arms still crossed, but it wasn't confidence anymore. It was fear masked as pride. She turned and walked away without another word, slamming the bedroom door behind her as if that would reset everything. It didn't. Later that night, while she was asleep or pretending to be, I sat alone in the living room, scrolling through old photos. Not of her, not of us, but of me. From years ago, before we met, before I became this quiet version of myself, the man always walking on eggshells, always compromising, always waiting for her moods to pass. And that's when it truly hit me. I wasn't mourning her. I was mourning the man I used to be. But he wasn't gone. He had just been buried beneath her expectations, her criticisms, her disinterest. And now, piece by painful piece, I was digging him out. I woke up Monday morning to the smell of burnt toast. For a fleeting second, everything vanished. My location, the recent past. I thought it was a normal day, and she was simply messing up breakfast, as she often did when trying to make amends. But when I walked into the kitchen, remorse wasn't on her face, it was strategy. She greeted me as if nothing had happened, handed me a plate with a forced smile and said, "I figured we could start fresh." This changed my life in 30 days, recognizing manipulative patterns. I just stared at her. The audacity was breathtaking. Not even a genuine apology, not a single word of regret, just an unspoken expectation that I'd effortlessly fold back into the role I'd outgrown. I pushed the plate away. "You can't erase what you did with burnt toast and fake smiles." That's when her expression cracked. The performance slipped. She muttered, I thought you were more mature than this. And in that moment, I realized she genuinely believed she was the victim, that I was overreacting, that my years of silence had trained her to believe there would never be consequences. But this wasn't about immaturity. It was about dignity. Mine. The dignity she had trampled for too long. I went to work that day in a daze, yet not broken. I started clearing my desk at home, planning my departure. The lease was in both our names, but I didn't want the apartment. It was hers now, tainted, soaked in lies and betrayal. I found an old photo of us, tucked behind some paperwork from our 5th anniversary trip to Asheville. We looked happy, but I knew better now. That smile on her face wasn't for me. It was for the version of me she could control. On the train ride home, I checked my inbox and saw something that made my blood run cold. A message from Tyrion Thorne. He had somehow found my email. Subject line, "You deserve the truth." Against my better judgment, I opened it. It was short. No apology, no explanation, just a single sentence. She told me you two were separated and living in different spaces. Attached were screenshots of their conversations, all confirming it. She told him I was out of the picture, that I was emotionally unstable, that she was only staying with me for practical reasons. What I'm about to show you is a masterclass in deception. For a second, I wanted to hurl my phone out the window, but then I just breathed. I didn't reply. I didn't scream. I just let the truth settle into place like a final, devastating puzzle piece. It wasn't just a weekend fling. It was a sustained betrayal built on layers of lies told to both of us. I got home that evening and didn't even acknowledge her. I went straight to the spare room where my packed bag sat like a silent witness. She followed me in, finally losing her composure. "Are you seriously going through with this? You're going to leave over this stupid mistake?" she snapped. I turned to her slowly. "It's not the mistake, Celeste. It's the pattern, the lies, the rewriting of our life. I don't know who you are anymore, and honestly, I don't want to." She stood there stunned. For the first time since all of this began, she had no comeback, just silence, and it felt good. Not out of spite, but out of freedom, because I wasn't waiting anymore. I was walking. The morning I left, the sun was just beginning to rise, painting soft gold through the windows. The same windows I used to sit beside, waiting for her text that never came. This time, there was no waiting, no hoping, just calm. I had packed the last of my things into 2 suitcases. No boxes, no drama, no grand farewell speech. She was still asleep when I left my key on the kitchen counter. That same counter where she once left a folded train ticket and a lie wrapped in self-discovery. I moved into a small studio apartment across town. Nothing fancy, a bit cramped, and the water pressure is questionable. But for the first time in years, every corner of it felt like mine. I bought new sheets, white ones, clean, untouched. I even bought a little cactus for the windowsill. It's strange, the profound joy that comes from watering something that won't lie to you. In 7 days, your life will change if you embrace this. Over the next few weeks, I slowly began piecing myself back together. I started going for early morning walks, something I hadn't done since our first year of marriage. I reconnected with friends I drifted from, not because they left, but because I had isolated myself in a relationship that demanded all of me while offering less and less in return. I even picked up sketching again, something I used to love before I was made to feel like my hobbies were childish or a waste of time. Celeste tried to reach out. A few texts, one voicemail, all deleted unread. Because this wasn't about punishing her anymore. It was about protecting myself. I wasn't angry, not anymore. I just felt done. Then one afternoon, while walking through the farmer's market, I bumped into someone, literally, a woman with a canvas bag full of books and a shy smile. We talked, we laughed, we walked for an hour, and it didn't feel like starting over. It felt like beginning for the first time, without carrying someone else's betrayal in my back pocket. So yes, she left to find herself. But in the end, I found someone too. Me. And that's the end of this story.